Fyre tonight is a film. So John and I did this performance back in 2001, I think. It feels like it. No, we got one showing and then another lockdown happened. So we decided to make the film of the play and the film. So this is so I can relax tonight and not be worried about another pandemic coming through and stopping tonight from happening. So thank you to all of you for coming to see the film. We will do the show again at the Mama in December, so I hope you come to see that. Fyre has a PG rating, so parental guidance. I like to call it paying guest. So that's all people who have been in psych wards. This film does have a bit of a psych ward narrative. The work itself is actually a story about the contrast between psych wards and the psych system, and creativity and healing through nature and the arts and spirituality. So when you watch the film, try and, support what you already believe, or maybe open your mind to what might be possible for people with long-term lived experience and mental health realities. Thank you to Costa on camera, who is filming tonight. So if you want to be on camera, streak across the front. Do a good show of it. And when you ask a question or make a comment in the forum at the end, then hopefully your voice will be recorded. Thank you to John Fleming for all the work that you've put into editing this film tonight. Absolutely incredible amount of work putting this film together. So can we just do a little round of applause for John? We will do a little Q&A afterwards to talk about the psych system and the arts and healing and whatever happens there. So are we ready? It goes for about 34 minutes, and like I say, it is pretty bright because it's a digital screen. I do have some sunglasses you can borrow. Just put your hand up at any point and we'll pass them down to you. It's not very loud because we've tried to do it with a bit of sensory access embedded into the film, so there's no loud noises, and any flashing lights or anything like that has been slowed down and softened. Okay, shall we get into it? Yeah.
Thanks everyone. I'm John Fleming. I was very proud to co-create that with Heidi. So good to have shown it in its entirety. We just got one live show done. I don't know when that was, months ago. So it was good to get that done. Yeah, that's right. So we thought we'd just take a moment to invite you to ask any questions you might have about what's in the video, or the making of it, or the process, or anything like that. Is there anything you want to say after that, Heidi?
Thank you.
Here in front.
Yeah, as someone who, I guess, creativity is really, I don't think I'd be here today without creativity. I guess I'm really interested in the way you use it as a way to make sense of your experiences, and kind of like how do you integrate it into your whole sort of lived experience? And, how does it? What's your perspective on that?
Thank you. What's your name?
Benjamin.
Thank you, Benjamin. So I think I first got into drawing as a way to cope with being neurodivergent when I was a child. So I drew my reality, and it was a big part of who I was growing up as well. When I was in pretty difficult situations, I would get a pen and a spare bit of paper and just draw my escape. So even though the environment was pretty rubbish, in my mind and in my reality, I was actually in another world altogether. So here we go. Does anyone know the Close Encounters of the Third Kind theme song? It sounds a bit like a UFO landing.
Yeah, I've just in response to that too, Benjamin, I've always, just since I've been working with you, Heidi, you're very creative in so many ways, not only in your storytelling, but musically and visually and theatrically, and you do comedy, and it's all sort of a way of, I guess, creating that reality, which is more just a better place to be for you. Is that right?
Yeah, it's about telling your story in your way and not your psychiatric files way. I don't know if you relate to that as well, but telling your story through song or drawing or film or theatre, you know, it's I'm not getting medicated for telling my story tonight, whereas I might be in a psych appointment.
Is there another question?
Come on!
Heidi, can I ask you who wrote the script? Was it collaborative? Did you do it with John, or was the idea, because it's very creative, very intriguing?
Thank you. So, is it okay to say that this is devised theatre?
Yeah,
So,
I think, well, I guess whatever that is. Yeah.
yeah, so there's no actual, well, John actually did record a beautiful script, so there is a script version. But it was very organic the way my story came from my voice and through my body as well. So I'm not a big words person, so a big part of the script is a lot of movement and showing rather than telling. But yeah, is there a playwright?
I think I'm happy to call it co-created, I think, but definitely it all just came from your story and experience. We started by, the city of Banyule made a space available to us, like a big hall, and we just kind of played on the floor of the hall and rolled around and did stuff, and Heidi kind of physically went through a story and I would follow her in that movement, and so together we would kind of, and that part of that too was creating the safe space for Heidi to feel like she could just, be expressive, and then we would find the edges of what was useful in telling the story in the theatre without going and overexposing things necessarily. So I think there was a necessary safety to that process, as well as a trust, and and it came through physical and verbal and musical work, and and there's a fair bit, of course, we came up with that didn't make it into that. So Qualia Fyre wasn't even a film. It was a total theatre play, and then a hybrid, and then the film. So adapting. Yeah.
I wasn't sure what date you made that, Heidi. Is it just recently, or is it back a long time ago?
So I think we first got together early 2020, and the theatre piece was supposed to go on that June. I think that's right.
2019. Oh no, 20.
I think it was 2020 because it was.
No, it was before COVID.
It was before COVID. Crikey. Okay. So and then we were supposed to put on that June, but things got locked down and changed. Anyway, whatever year it was not this year. But the hybrid piece got created towards the end of last year with as you saw, like it was actually shot in here. So the video piece and then Heidi here interacting with the video, that was last year. And then the total video piece got put together this year. So the date was 22 on that.
And what's like your overall aim from the audience's perspective? What are you hoping to give us tonight and to carry away from tonight?
I would love everyone here to start exploring telling their story through the arts, if you're not already. I mean, there's nothing I can tell you that you're not already doing. I think it's really hard to affect change in the system from outside or inside, but it's really actually quite easy and direct to do things through the arts. that policy and research just have no idea about.
If I could add in a somewhat less political tone, that for me, what one of the things the film says is find the things that keep you sane, find the things that keep you functional and grounded, and whatever it might be, the ocean or music. And for me, like as someone, I guess I don't identify as neurodivergent, but you know, I know that I can cease to be functional if I don't ground myself with things that keep me happy. So that's definitely one message in that. Yeah.
I was just, you sort of just basically said, Heidi, just find your arts practice or practices to help yourself. But have you sort of, with both of you running workshops for maybe people with neurodivergent things and stuff, to do this sort of, to get into a safe space where they can find their sort of soul and body and tell their own stories and express themselves physically?
I have actually.
Well,
So for the last 10 or so years I've been running a not-for-profit called Schizzy Inc.
oh, yeah.
And we do workshops and performances and events all in the arts, through performing arts, visual arts, writing. There's another person here who runs a music not-for-profit for people to get into music. So we're out there.
Nice.
So check out Schizzy Inc. We have a studio, an art studio at Abbotsford Convent. And we're running workshops at Ross House.
Your website?
Schizzy Inc., schizzy.org. And it's not pronounced shitty.
That's awesome.
Thank you. What's your name?
Miller.
Miller. Thank you, Miller.
Benjamin, did you have
Oh, this may not be the forum for it, but I've come across your organisation. It seems like they do wonderful things, but there's no way in a million years I'm going to be involved in something that's called Schizzy. Having a long, awful associations with that phrase. So, I don't know, is there a discussion about like that, or?
I totally respect that the word schizophrenia has traumatised a lot of people, and there's actually a huge worldwide conversation happening now about slowly removing the word schizophrenia from the DSM and any clinical model. There's another side of that where people have actually reclaimed schizophrenia as a power word, and also the term mad.
I love mad.
Yeah.
We get to
So,
schizophrenia is a psychiatric word. I don't think we can reclaim psychiatry.
totally agree. Like, yeah, go for it. The word schizzy actually came from a friend of mine, the late Donna Williams, who was an amazing autism advocate. I don't know if you remember Donna, but she had a fantastic handle on the word autism, and she had a band called Donna and the Aspenauts. And she used to use the words auti rather than autism because it reclaimed and softened the word autism from the medical model. So that's why I use the word schizzy, is because it's kind of Australianifying schizophrenia, but I totally agree on the spectrum of pride. Yeah. There was a person up here.
I just wanted to reflect on how I didn't realise how oppressive the foam cup and that paddle stick is in terms of like a cup of tea until I was watching that be a feature of your film, and working as a nurse and having worked through wards and mental health, just how dehumanizing can be, because you're right. I mean, you have a teapot and a cup of tea that has like a teacup that has weight to it, that has personality, that, you know, they all look different, and we all kind of have our own preferences, and even that is taken. And I just wondered if that, if this is something that you would envision or hope people in the medical profession to see, who actually do get, nurse unit managers who order in things for art therapy, for meals, for recreation.
Thank you. And what's your name?
Beth.
Beth, thank you. So there's two things in there, the cup of tea and the art therapy. So one of them most shocking things that happened to me once in ER or ED or EF or whatever it's called these days. The emergency was a social worker actually asked me if I'd like a cuppa, and it just broke through everything else that was going on, and it just got to a part of me that reminded me of home and love. And when you're at a friend's house, they ask if you want a cuppa, and it was quite shocking at the time. And I think the way we have tea in polystyrene cups in psych wards, it's kind of a bit of a comedy act. Because I know we can't have, hard cups or whatever, but I think you can see by the mountain of polyester cups after 5 minutes that people do go to the kitchen to make tea and coffee, because it's the one thing in a psych ward that feels normal. So I don't know, can we get more funding for kitchens? I doubt it, Can we get hotter water than 20 degrees? I don't know. So, and art therapy, I mean, there's some hospitals that are doing some great things. I think Sunshine Hospital has a whole week of peer-led activities, whereas other hospitals I've been in, there's been absolutely nothing at all for 6 weeks. And you ask why, and they said, the music therapist was away sick this week. And then they skip a week, and then that's, and then sometimes there's no funding even. And the guitar's in a locked cupboard so it doesn't get damaged. There should be 50 guitars and they all get damaged, and just keep replacing them if that's what, guitars are meant to get damaged. So, yeah.
Up here.
Yeah, sorry, it's not so much a question. This is Flick. Hi, Heidi. It's not so much a question. I'm actually a little bit lost for words, and I think that was really helpful hearing that word dehumanising, because I feel like this kind of stuff rehumanises, and I think about my own stuff. Like, my story's not your story. Like, they're not the same, but yet that felt like my story. Like, the details were so... And their experiences that I feel like they happen to you, and then you just have to pop them away somewhere because there's no space to, and so seeing this just feels like it's really moving, having my story kind of and I know it's your story, but the arts do something in a way that I don't know any other way of that humanising happening to these experiences that are they're so radically dehumanising. And I think for myself, I actually have to dissociate from them. I have to act like they never happened on some level. And this kind of, I don't know, it's so precious to have them, and also that knowing that I'm not alone in them as well. Like, it's so radically isolating. I mean, I don't even have the full words, but I feel like you gifted something that, my spirit needed, so thank you.
Thanks, Blake.
Thank you. Yeah. Can I kind of add to that in that I really wish Heidi, I've been working with Heidi now for a few months. She's given me so many opportunities to perform spoken word, and I just wish that we could bring it to more people, if we could take it to the psych wards. I don't know, I've been trying to get into my local council, the government, the funding with billions of dollars. There was nothing last night with the budget for mental health. Nothing was mentioned at all. Are there some advocates here tonight, anywhere, that can get it out there? Because there's so much talent. The thing we did on Sunday, I was so proud, Heidi, the level that the participants that asked the gnarly riders over 40 in psych wards. I thought we were bloody brilliant if any of you are here.
Fantastic. Maybe one more question then. Thank you.
Hi, it's Harold.
Hi, Daryl.
I was really struck by your companion in the story. And thank you also for introducing me to the idea of the alienist. My experience, particularly my first experience of being in a locked psych ward, was just feeling so alone and so misunderstood and so forced into a particular direction, and really not having any choice or being able to exercise any creativity. And you know, in this piece, you had that conversation with yourself, you know, that ability to have an ally. I wonder when you're in that narrative with yourself, was there a time when you became your friend?
Great question.
That's a fantastic question. Hang on, just give me another year and I'll come back. I think I've always been my own friend. So as someone who grew up alone, and I now live a solitary life as well, I am my own friend, and I do have angels around me that I talk to every day and every night, and that's a dangerous idea in the psych system, to be spiritual. And why is it dangerous? You know, there's no mention of spirituality in the mental health system because it's a dangerous topic. It might be a psychosis or a delusion or a hallucination. So it's the diagnosis of the mental health system that it's sick. But yeah, being my own friend, and also can I just honour little Tigger, the dog. Just even watching it then again, I've just got tears in my eyes. And John, the way you drew the dog, every little ounce of that dog you drew by hand.
Yeah, it took a little while
Yeah.
to do that, sure.
So thank
Sitting at my
you.
partner's dining room table with a little
Amazing.
pen like that.
You got it absolutely perfect, and every time I see that scene, I'm just, wow, is this our film or is this Hollywood? But yeah, being your own friend on the streets as well and in psych wards, you have to kind of consult with a trusted team, and if that's you, then it has to be you. And also, before we close, there's a scene in the film that I'd love to mention and honour, and it's the bluestone pillar at Fairfield Park. Do you remember the pillar scene? I don't know if any of you have ever been out there, but it's down near NMIT in Fairfield, down the little road down towards the Yarra, and it's where the asylum used to stand. Does anyone know the name of it? I've forgotten. Yarra Bend? Larundel? No,
that's not the right one.
I think it was Yarra Bend.
It's right next to the freeway and the river, and then it's up the hill from there. I think it was called the Yarra Bend.
Going around the bend? That must have been it. But if you go down there and you just see this little lump of trees and the traffic's right next to it down a hill, and then you see this massive bluestone pillar, and that's the last thing standing from that asylum. So there were two, and in between that was some massive iron gates, and people were dragged through those gates and left there. So many people for the rest of their life, and there's actually unmarked graves in that area. So when we do this film, we really wanted to honour that story. It's not just me, it's not just Flick, it's not just whoever's else here's been through it. It's all this history that we're bringing to this space tonight as well. And I think, you know, there's so many artist advocates out there, but it's up to the arts to tell these stories, because politicians aren't going to know about that bluestone pillar. I've tried, you know, there's a couple of people here tonight that are trying to advocate for a plaque. They just won't do it. So it's up to you to hold these stories and tell these stories through the arts, because it's only because, you know, beautiful Haroki and Banyule Arts Council that funded this project and believed in it all these years. And John, you know, and everyone that got it together, it's because these stories need to be held and acknowledged and told. And if you don't tell them, no one will.
I say we go and find some, I can carve it, make a plaque and glue it on. Just do it.
Right, so it sounds like a whole other film.
One more chance for the quiet people to ask for their hand.
Yeah. Is there anyone who just feels something just here?
Thank you. I'm being a quiet person. The line, you know, like she's got fire in her blood, let's give her some good wood. That just like struck me as such a gold nugget. And yeah, it's such a perfect way to kind of understand what was to come and the arc of the whole thing. And I sort of like, yeah, I really liked it. It was kind of like, sounded like Bob Dylan or something. It was just so good. And I love it when something just comes out like that, and I wondered if it was one of those just like came to you in like fully formed, or if it was a bit of a crafted thing and that was like a purposeful sort of metaphor.
Thank you. Yeah, so when we started making this play as a theatre piece, one of the early things that we came up with was that the idea of the campfire, because that's important to me. And you know, we had it in front of a tent. We had it in a I don't know. We just had this fire moving around, and it just became a central part of the piece that just kept coming through. And the stars and all this, it just came together, didn't it? It was quite magical, actually, how it all came together. And the good wood, when you build a campfire, I always used to take, you know, young people out, and they go collecting all these little sticks and they throw them in the middle and build them up and then chuck a match and some carrow and the thing would go woof. And then it would be dark and we'd all be sitting there freezing because they burnt all the kindling. So one of the things you do when you're out in the bush is that you spend a lot of time collecting good wood for your fire to get you through the night. So that's what that analogy of the fire is in this, that you go through your life and you collect that good wood. Don't just burn it all in the little sticks. Make sure you collect the good pieces that are going to get you through the night.
Yeah, that's a fantastic place to finish up. Thank you, Heidi. We were going to call the piece Goodwood at one stage, but it had a bit of a... There we go there. Thank you all so much for coming to this screening tonight. We really appreciate you all being here. Yeah. I imagine that the piece will probably end up on display somewhere, Vimeo or YouTube or something, and if you're interested, maybe contact Heidi through Skitsy Inc. and find out where that is.
Email me.
Yeah, email Heidi.
If you haven't already, like, it's Skybeans. If you want to contact me directly, it's Sky, it's SKYBEANZ@gmail.com. Please email me because I will not know you after tonight.
All right, thanks so much and have a safe trip.